Welcome to 8-Limb Life, a podcast on living the 8 limbs of yoga, one step at a time. My name is Andra, and I am grateful you are sharing your time and presence with me as we explore this sacred wisdom. These teachings are ancient, but they're not meant to live in the past. They show up in how we speak, how we act, how we relate to others, and to ourselves. Each episode explores one of the limbs and how we can bring this wisdom into modern life. This is 8-Limb Life. There's a quiet exhaustion that comes from pretending we're okay when we're not, pretending we agree or don't mind when we do. And often we do this without even realizing it. Today's episode is about Satya, truthfulness, the second of the yamas in the yogic tradition. Satya is often translated simply as truth. But like so many yogic teachings, it goes beyond simple definition. There's a wonderful quote from Anais Nin, who was fascinated by the tension between the self we present to the world and the self we actually experience inwardly. She said, "We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are." Meaning that our fears, wounds, beliefs, and experiences shape the way we interpret the world. Two people can live through the same moment and walk away with completely different truths, because each one is seeing through the lens of their own inner world. Truthfulness toward ourselves may actually be the hardest form of Satya, because it requires stillness. It requires us to stop running long enough to hear what's actually happening inside. Many of us stay busy for just this reason. Constant motion becomes a form of avoidance. Scrolling, overworking, always planning the next thing, always filling the silence. Because in silence, grief may finally speak. Loneliness may surface. Fear may become visible. And if we never slow down, we never have to face it. But yoga invites us into presence, and presence can reveal truth. Maybe during shavasana, or on a walk, maybe after heartbreak, or maybe in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday when we suddenly realize, I am exhausted, I am unhappy, I am lost. Satya asks us not to look away from those moments, but to honor them. Think of someone you follow on social media. Her posts include soft morning light, matcha in handmade cups, yoga on the beach, dinners with friends. Her captions speak of peace, alignment, gratitude. To everyone watching, her life looks whole. But off camera, she dreads silence. She barely eats. She keeps herself performing because she doesn't know who she is without the approval of others. Her relationships are fragile. She's lonely. And every post becomes another layer between her real life and the image she's built. One day she stops before uploading a photo. Nothing dramatic happened, just a quiet realization that she hasn't been honest, even with herself. Satya begins there, not in confessing every wound online, but in no longer using performance to escape truth. She starts letting her life be lived instead of curated, and for the first time in years, she feels something more nourishing than admiration: relief. There's a place in modern life where we are often the most out of alignment with this principle. That is when we are caught in the trap of people-pleasing, agreeing when we don't agree, saying yes when we mean no, avoiding conflict at all costs, not because we're manipulative, because we're afraid of disappointing someone, afraid of rejection, afraid that truth might cost us belonging. And yet, over time, this creates a quiet fracture inside of us. Because every time we abandon what's true for us in order to maintain approval, we move further away from ourselves. Satya asks us to be with that, not with shame, with awareness. Yoga philosophy is, after all, compassionate about human behavior. It understands we all have conditioning. We have protective patterns, survival strategies, and sometimes dishonesty isn't loud at all. Sometimes it sounds like, "I'm fine, it's okay, it doesn't matter," when underneath, something inside of us is aching to be acknowledged. Let's look at Satya in the studio. Consider the student walking into a yoga studio for the first time. Maybe they're anxious, exhausted, or simply longing to feel whole again. Maybe the teacher at the front of the room seems serene, disciplined, calm, and composed. But Satya asks us to look deeper than image, because someone can perform wellness without actually living it. This is not about judgment. It is about honesty. Because sometimes there is an unseen truth beneath an image. Could be sadness, restriction, or a painful disconnection from the body itself. When suffering is hidden beneath the language of wellness, harm can unintentionally spread. Satya does not ask us to expose or shame anyone. It asks for honesty. Honesty about the fact that someone can look healthy and still be struggling deeply. Honesty about how yoga culture sometimes rewards appearances over embodiment. And perhaps most importantly, Satya reminds us that yoga was never meant to make us smaller. Not physically, not emotionally, not spiritually. True practice can make us more connected, more compassionate, and more alive inside our bodies. True practice doesn't make us more at war with them. This is why Satya becomes especially important in spiritual spaces, because spirituality can become performative very quickly. People can begin performing peace instead of actually cultivating it. They might perform certainty or healing, Even enlightenment can become a performance. But Satya asks something else of us. It asks us to be real, to honor the truth of our bodies instead of forcing shapes, to honor that we're struggling, or to feel safe saying, I don't know, to stop pretending we're healed when we're still hurting. And strangely, with honesty often becomes the beginning of actual healing. It was Carl Jung who said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." What he realized was if we never examine these unseen forces, they quietly shape our choices, relationships, and reactions without us even realizing it. We may think life is simply happening to us, when in reality, we are repeating unconscious patterns that are hidden beneath our behavior. And because these forces remain unconscious, they quietly begin shaping our lives. Think of a woman you know. She keeps every room warm. She remembers birthdays, softens tensions before they even arise, answers messages late into the night. She is called generous, loving, selfless, and slowly she begins disappearing inside the performance of goodness. She does not notice at first the way exhaustion settles into her bones, the way resentment flickers and is swallowed back down. But beneath the surface, a quiet question simmers. If I stop giving, will I still be loved? And in that moment, the unconscious is made conscious. A lantern is carried gently into the hidden rooms of her heart. And suddenly her life no longer feels like fate. Because now, when she says yes or offers her time, she can ask, is this love or fear wearing the mask of love? There's an old story about a gardener and a bird. Each morning the bird landed on the gardener's shoulder while he worked. The gardener grew to love the bird deeply, its song, its presence, the simple joy of its choosing to return. But one day fear entered his heart. What if it leaves and never comes back? So he built a beautiful golden cage. He told himself it was for the bird's safety. He filled it with soft cloth, fresh fruit, polished water bowls. When the bird at first hesitated, he whispered, "I'm only protecting you. This is love." Once inside, the bird grew quiet. It stopped eating. Soon it stopped singing altogether. The gardener grew confused and hurt. He thought, after everything I've given you? An old woman passing by said, "You did not build this cage because of love. You built it out of fear. Love wants to nurture life. Fear wants to possess it." The gardener searched his heart, and with sadness, he opened the cage. For a long time, the bird did not move. Finally, it flew into the sky. The gardener wept, believing he had lost it forever. The next morning, the bird returned to his shoulder and sang. For the first time, the gardener understood this simple truth. Love trusts. fear clings. Satya doesn't demand perfection. It doesn't mean we suddenly become fearless truth tellers overnight. It means we begin noticing. Noticing where we exaggerate, where we minimize, where we betray ourselves, where we shapeshift to keep others comfortable, and gently asking, what would it feel like to live a little more authentically? It could begin very small, saying, I actually can't commit to that right now, or that hurt my feelings, or I need rest. Truth can be incredibly tender, and often when we finally tell the truth to ourselves, change begins. Maybe not overnight, but slowly. And one day we recognize a pattern has shifted, or softened, or dissolved altogether. Because there is relief in honesty. There is relief in no longer performing. And maybe that's what Satya really offers us, a return to what is real, a return to integrity, a return to ourselves. Thank you for sharing your time and presence with me exploring the 8-limb life. My name is Andra, and I look forward to connecting with you more deeply with each and every episode. If you'd like to stay for an additional reading, I will share one at the end of each episode. May joy, love, peace, and laughter fill your lives and the lives of those around you. Namaste. Let us return to Carl Jung, who reminded us we cannot live the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning. For what was great in the morning will be little at evening, and what in the morning was true will at evening have become a lie.